that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boys Isaiah.
Yo.
And Gavin.
What's up?
And today, as presented by this beautiful monitor that we put great use to, we have a guest today. And his name is Inspirashamul. Otherwise known as Shumuka is the behind the scenes. But we're really excited to talk about Tower of God and everything that goes with that. Now, the reason we are talking with our newfound friend today is because he has way more fucking information on Tower of God, like a lot more knowledge on this series than we do. And, you know, we kind of hit it off through YouTube, which is really awesome. We were able to meet through YouTube. He has an amazing YouTube channel that goes through all sorts of Tower of God things, as well as some other things that you've now picked up. And feel free to let us know what those things are.
Yeah, what are those things that are you doing?
Yeah. What are you up to?
So I mainly do 3 different Webtoon series. So the main one is Tower of God. I've picked up another series called Purple Hyacinth, which is a murder mystery. And then Rebirth, which is a time travel / zombie / mix sci-fi series. So those are the 3 main series that I talk about on my channel.
Okay, and it's all Webtoon based, am I correct?
All Webtoon based, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. What gets you onto something like Webtoon? Like, what inspired you to go into the Webtoon route on your channel?
So it was actually, the reason why I chose Webtoon is because I don't think it was talked a lot about, especially when I started the channel back in end of 2019. I mean, the anime wasn't announced for Tower of God, which, you know, caused a massive explosion for Webtoons. Just not really a lot of admiration for it, but at least hype around what Webtoons has to offer. So this was pre that era.
Sure. No, that's awesome. You were on it before it was like mainstream, I guess
Exactly.
you could say. You know what I mean? Because Tower of God, and I have to say, Tower of God has just, we've said it before, we'll say it again, but has A, introduced us to new friends, which is awesome, and B, has just expanded our community so much, and so many of the Tower of God fans are just incredibly loyal and passionate about this story, and it's really awesome to share that, you know, that love with them on it. But that's really cool that you're highlighting a subject, and even have been highlighting a subject that, you know, quite frankly, was not mainstream, you know, or wasn't getting that sort of attention before it was getting, you know, before now it's gotten that recognition that it honestly deserves, because, you know, we're all pretty on board with what's going on there. So we had a couple talking points today to go over, and being that Shumuka has gone over the Webtoon first, obviously, as stated, we have said many times our influence and opinions of this story have definitely been influenced, I would say, by the fact that we were anime first watchers.
Correct.
You know, not going through the whole rigmarole of it, but we were kind of like skeptical at first. We were like, okay, the first 2 episodes is like this, you know, a lot going on, but it's like, it's all right. And then when we hop back on it, it was just like, we loved it. Right. And so then talking about the Webtoon, you know, because we'd always get people that would say, oh, this part, fucking terrible. Like, Webtoon did this so much better. Or, you know what I mean? Like, this part, anime adapted it properly. Or, like, you'd always get these arguments, right, within the comments. And so, you know, when we came into it, we were like, listen, like, you might not agree with all of our opinions, being that we were anime first. And, you know, we can't disregard the fact that that had a major influence on how we view this story. So being that you are literally the polar opposite in terms of what you've read first and read multiple times before it was animated, we wanted to first talk about the differences, you know what I mean, between coming from Webtoon to anime. Now, Shumuka, I'd actually like to defer the question to you first, being that I would wager that a lot of our audience from Tower of God as of late are Webtoon readers, right? Because they've been following us a lot on our Webtoon discussions. I could be wrong there, but I'm gonna make that educated guess here. So it's probably a refresher to get somebody who is, you know what I mean, has read the Webtoons first and that's now hopping on.
Well versed in it compared to us.
So answer me the question, Shumuka, how were your thoughts influenced being from a Webtoon reader to a watcher?
So my main thought process going into the anime, the first thing was that we got leaks that it was only 13 episodes before the season was actually aired, and that put a lot of tension on the Webtoon community, because 78 chapters, which are sizable chapters in 13 episodes, stuff's got to get cut.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
So I view the anime, and I still view the anime as a supplement to the webtoon.
Okay. Interesting. Gotcha. Would anyone else agree?
Yeah.
I gotta say, yeah. I actually, it's funny because I know we talked about it a little bit on our last episode, and that's, you know, now that we're caught up to this part in the webtoon and reflecting back on the anime to what we know, we were kind of like, which one do we lean toward now? And obviously, since the anime is our precursor, now that we're caught up, did we feel like we enjoyed one over the other? And it's like I can't help but feel that I actually prefer the manhwa now, especially that we caught up, because it just felt like the anime wasn't bad by any means. And I actually think they did a lot in terms of what they had to fit in 13 episodes, which is, you know, comparatively like 78 fucking chapters. Like they had to squeeze a lot, but they didn't do a bad job per se. But I do get more gratification from reading it. I don't know why. I just feel like the characters are really fleshed out, and that's what I enjoy. Like when I read and watch stuff. So I have more an appreciation for the manhwa, and like just, I know we're talking about moving forward with it. It's just so exciting because like it's just more stuff, you know? And then now we're going to get the other end of it, where when we follow the next season and then they adapt it into the anime, we're going to get the whole other side of the coin. And I'm sure our opinions are going to be like probably the opposite of what we said initially. So it's going to be interesting as we move forward for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Isaiah, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I'm pretty much agree. We watched the anime first, and I like the idea of watching the anime first and then going to the manhwa, like in that order, because I like the idea of like the anime giving you sort of like an appetizer for this story and for the show, and then for the story, and then it's like, oh, I really like these characters, but like now you have the manhwa, now you have like the source material to refer back to if you want to know more, or if you want that lore, that exposition. But I think the anime, because like the anime's announcement and like just the fact that Crunchyroll made it, like, you know, like we've said before, obviously did a lot for Tower of God in terms of popularity. So I think like, and that's the effect that anime has, right? So it's a cool thing that exists because it gives this story and this world and characters and whatnot more light and more exposure. So you get that little taste of it, and then you're like, wow, that was really dope, but like it sucks it's only 13 episodes. And it's like, well, actually there's 300 plus chapters that you can read about it, and you know what I mean? Then you have more manhwa fans. So I think like the two do really, or can really work like as a team.
Yeah. I feel like you almost spoil yourself at first sometimes if you read the webtoon. You know, sometimes you don't have a choice because it's not animated, obviously, right? But it's like, it's almost like taking the biggest roller coaster and then going on one half the size in a sense. And it's like, and you know, you get things out of the anime that we don't want to look over here, right? You get that fucking fire soundtrack. Like, oh my fucking God, that soundtrack was so fire, dude. The OP, the ED, that one song, bro, which I can't fucking remember, but it's when Quant just fucking face plants Hots into the wall, and they put it like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, and it was dope. It was fucking sick. The soundtrack was fire. The animation was good, and unique, and there, you know, that's things that you can't capture, obviously, you know, in a webtoon on that level, especially the first season webtoon, because being that they were a little older, I remember that was one of our gripes, I would say, in the beginning, that it was like, oh God, that was jarring. You know what I mean? Like the animation, the drawing was like significant.
But then you got used to it pretty fast.
You get used to it pretty fast, but it's almost like, you know, you can't blame some of the people, you know, but for thinking the way they do once they see the anime, but you also have to, if you are one of those people, that you have to take a step back and be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, because I've enmeshed myself so fully in the story, and I've taken the time to be an active participant in what this story is trying to unfold, which means that I've put hours into this. I've analyzed things. I've read. That's enough for some people, right? A lot of people out there don't even freaking read, right? So like now watching the anime, it doesn't require, I would say, so much of an active participation as the webtoon in order to learn all this lore, all these backstories, and all these characters be fleshed out. But if you are already willing to put in that work and then the anime cuts it, you know, I could see why some people would be a little, you know, hesitant to latch onto the anime.
And I would argue that if you're willing to put the effort into read, it is more rewarding in that sense, because you are getting that more information. You know, you are getting a payout for putting more effort into it. Which I think is just as important in this scenario. No, that makes sense. So, you know, it's interesting. Would you say, when you say, now you say the anime was a supplement, or is a supplement to the webtoon?
A supplement.
Now, do you like it? You know what I mean? At the end of the day?
That's a really tough question. I gotta say I don't.
Okay, fair enough.
But they made some stylistic changes and some character driven, or not character driven, but director driven decisions of behaviors of some of our main cast that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
And the main one that I want to point out is Bomb at the end. That ending scene where he's just like, I'll climb. Like, that was so watered down and not Bomb's character in season 1.
Yeah.
As you guys continue to read in season 2 and hopefully season 3, you'll see, hopefully in retrospect, how out of character that is of Bomb in the anime itself.
Okay, interesting. You know what's funny though is that I actually thought the anime, as compared to the webtoon, did that pretty well, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because like I think he doesn't give the whole speech at the end of the webtoon, right? He kind of just is like, "Fuck it, I'm climbing," right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
In the webtoon itself, the speech is more about him in pain. It's him reflecting about why would someone that he cares about
Betray
did
him.
something like this to him.
Yeah,
It seemed like the ending of the anime, maybe they weren't greenlit for season 2 or anything, so they were trying to like fully wrap it up and leave it on a bigger cliffhanger than it was.
Yeah.
So it felt a little too open-ended. Granted, it kind of fits more with the theme of climbing the tower, but Bomb at this stage of this journey doesn't care about the tower.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a fair point. And I think we were talking about this in a previous episode.
Yeah, it was something we said when we finished the webtoon that we talked about, where Bam in the anime as opposed to the manhwa, it almost seems like the anime goes for, I don't know quite how to word it, but like this more copped out version of like how he might have reacted to that in terms of the manhwa, where it is a little bit more like emotional, I guess, and raw, and like you do get a little bit more sense of the fact that like Bam is literally feeling hurt that Rachel, like that's all that stuff is actively processing in his mind, as opposed to the anime where it sort of gives off this like, well, I'm gonna climb the tower, like, you know what I mean, I'm the like the protagonist or whatnot, and it does, I think the anime definitely does dilute it to a sense, and that's actually a good point that you bring up, because it might be very well that like they didn't know if this was going to kick off or continue, so they're like, all right, if this flops, like, you know what I mean, that's it, you know, cut the black, we're ending it there. That's cool. That's a good point.
Yeah, that is.
There's some other things that the anime chose to do stylistically, especially with Ghost, that when they were airing or when they were creating the script for it, or however the storyboard or something, stuff hasn't happened about centering around Ghost in the actual webtoon. So the way that they portrayed in the anime kind of conflicts with season 3
Definitely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And like that was like when I watched that episode when Ghost like panics and disappears, I was dumbfounded. I was like, what is going on? Like it threw me into a complete loop because I had such a big established like lore of like, this is what Ghost is. This is what Rachel is. How are they linked like this? What is going on?
Interesting.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I would even argue to say that because you've read the webtoon in its entirety, made season 1 of the anime that much, you know, more unappealing, right? Because if you had just read season 1 of the webtoon and then read the, you know, and then read the anime, it might not, it would have, you know, you would have seen, or I'm sorry, and then watched the anime, you would have seen the stylistic differences, but you wouldn't have been able to see, I would say, the repercussions of those decisions like more fleshed out, right? Because now you're saying that this conflicts with things in season 3, right? And it's like, we're not there yet, so we don't know what those things are.
Exactly.
But I could, you know, like that's that, you know, it seems like they're going for a short term, you know, and I think, and then we'll like, you know, shoot first, ask questions later type thing, you know.
And I'll try to keep it as like spoiler free as possible. But there was another thing at the beginning of season 2 that the first episode of the anime just kind of skipped over lore wise, that has a significant impact on the story itself within that certain arc. That's as vague as I'll be.
Okay.
I guess you'll get to that point.
Yeah.
And then you'll let me know
sure
how it changes it.
Yeah, fair enough. That's cool though. I think you provide a lot of interesting points, and it, you know, it stinks that obviously we haven't read all the way through, but that's part of the fun of this. But you know, of course, that leads us to not be able to, you know, ask so many questions. You know what I mean? Because you probably have so much more knowledge to share, you know, in so many different points. But unfortunately, we're not there yet. So maybe, you know, who knows? Eventually.
And something about knowledge is, I would advise, I don't know if your readers or your commenters have said to avoid the wiki because it's dumb spoiler, full of spoilers. But one good thing about the wiki is that SIU, after every single chapter, puts a blog post attached to that chapter.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Okay.
Most of it is non-canon, but you can consider it canon, kind of. Like, he changes story elements along as, he's gone through 10 years of writing the story. So
Sure, yeah,
stuff changes. But so for the 78 chapters of season 1, there's 78 blog posts tied to each of those chapters.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a lot of reading, but
That's a lot of reading. Well, the blog posts are like maybe a paragraph, maybe like 50 words or something, but still, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. And kind of like, I remember, I don't know why I think of this, but Game of Thrones, you remember when they would always do like the after thing, and the directors would go through the stylistic choices they made and stuff like that. That's what that reminds me of, which I'm not going to lie, I know informed me of a lot when I watched those things. I thought they were very helpful, at times. So it would make
at least
sense.
until the end.
Yeah, we won't get into that disaster, but you get the point. There's another thing I wanted to tie this into here, and that would be some of the themes that we see throughout season 1, right? Because there's a lot of them. Some of the things we've listed here are the themes of betrayal, the themes of luck, the themes of dark versus light, things like that. So being that you've been through this, been through the ringer a couple of times now, you might have a little more insight than we do on, beyond a surface level in terms of what these things mean, right? Because we see plenty of betrayal throughout it. That's pretty abundantly clear. Like the tower almost incentivizes it in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah.
There's definitely a lot of things with dark and light in terms of Bam is literally born in dirt and darkness, right?
And his name itself.
And his name himself, and then Rachel's trying to see the stars, which are emitting light. And, things of luck too. They really, in the anime, I remember like they really, I really got this abundantly clear at first, it was like, especially since they had to cut stuff out, it really seemed like it was lucky at times, right? Like even more so in the webtoon, in my opinion, because they're just be like, well, Bam's hot, so we'll just let him go to the next stage, right? And stuff like that. I'm like, wow, he really is lucky. They weren't kidding, right? When they said it. But I think on the webtoon, it's more of like a,
it's grounded.
Yeah, it's more grounded, and it's like not so flippant, but it's like, you were born a certain way. And that, your latent ability and just natural gifted talent is what's going to help you ascend, through this tower and things like that. So I was curious if there are any things that, that are stand out to you, or any themes that, you picked up on in your reading, or maybe that you started to pick up things that you missed on your second, third, fourth read-throughs that you wanted to share.
So I think the biggest thing, especially with a second read-through, is going back to floor 1, where we get floor 1 again at like, I think 74-ish, where we see Rachel's perspective of when she enters the tower.
Yes.
If you read through the early chapters again, there's these little 2 purple eyes in the dark, and they're supposed to represent Rachel looking in on Bam taking his test. So that's something that you can see throughout. There should be 2 little beads just looking on. The anime takes a different approach where Hidan uses Shinso to seal Rachel, but the anime or the webtoon kind of just shoves her in a cave. That's what Hidan does. So there's like little hints of foreshadowing, and SIU is known for that slow burner foreshadowing. So that's one of the things, literally putting Rachel into the dark while watching her light shine through and take that test that she failed to dig.
Yeah. Now I have a very important question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate Rachel? And is it a 10?
When I read this 7 years ago, it was a 10. I don't hate her as much. Okay. I've matured.
Oh damn.
All right. Well, it was nice talking to you, man. See you later.
You'll learn. I've come to sympathize with Rachel. Sadly, even though I didn't want to, I feel like SIU has written such a great character that Rachel is the ordinary person, and that Rachel is, the people reading this tower. They're not the ones with Shinso. They're not the ones with, extra abilities. Her routes of taking, what she does and what she continues to do throughout the story is awful, straight awful. But I can relate to her as a regular human being.
That's fair. Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
My hatred for her is down to a 3 now.
Wow.
It'll peak and ebb as you go through the story.
Yeah. It'll peak again. Oh, God.
It'll peak again. Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
Holy shit.
It was pretty fucking
She's
high.
despicable.
Yeah, she's pretty awful.
She's not
pretty,
good, folks.
Yeah,
All my homies hate Rachel.
All my homies. Yo, I love that meme that I see all the time.
Oh my god. That's funny though. When you were reading through it at first, being that this was years ago at this point, how surprised were you when you saw Rachel push Bam?
I was not ready for it.
Yeah.
I was disgustingly not ready for it. Oh my lord. Because I binged, I don't remember where I caught up, but she had 2 big moments of betrayal throughout my entire binging of like, I would like spend like days and nights just reading the story because I was so hooked. Man, I was not ready for Rachel.
Yo, do you think that the anime? I mean, I think I already know the answer to your question, but I guess my question is more why. Do you think that the anime lived up? And this is hard, being that you're a webtoon reader first. Mm-hmm. So this might be kind of a biased question coming in, but do you think that the anime did a good job at, that betrayal and kind of the lead up and everything like that?
I think it did. I think the anime actually characterized Rachel way better than the webtoon did in season 1.
Okay.
We got these hints of kind of hesitation from Rachel. We got hints of her being unsure. And especially when Bomb in the anime had to talk to the second floor administrator, the turtle dude. What was it? Han Sung-yu basically had that speech for Rachel, which we didn't really get in the webtoon. The speech was a little different in the webtoon. The speech was between Han Sung-yu and Bomb, but the anime took it more with Han Sung-yu talking directly to Rachel, saying, well, this is your last chance. To show how fickle she was, which I thought was really great.
Interesting.
And she looked ugly crying. I loved it. I loved it.
There was,
but yeah, like episode 12, right? That was the push at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I think it built up a lot of tension there. I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, I enjoyed the push, but also remember the studio had to knock that out of the park because that is the big moment of season 1. So everything that the director was building up to with Rachel's development throughout the season of the anime was for that push.
Yeah.
And I guess that's such a big crux if they did fuck that up, dudes. Like their studio would have been burnt down. Like
yeah, right.
That would have been messed up.
100%. There's a moment in the anime that I know isn't in the webtoon, and it actually like turned me on to Rachel prior to the betrayal, which is what I liked about it, because when it came, I was like that much more like, what the fuck? Which is a conversation she has with Bam, I believe it's after Ho's funeral, where she essentially just breaks down and she's like, it's all right, you can like abandon me, you can leave me, like I'm not worthy. And it's like, after that scene, I was on board. I'm like, all right, we got to take Rachel to the top of the tower. Let's do this. And so like that episode ends and you're like, what the fuck, girl? I was with you. We were gonna go to the top of the tower. Like,
you had your chance.
Oh man,
cool.
I know, just straight villainy. I actually do like how they did that in the anime as compared. Like, I like that scene in particular. I thought that was a good one. And it definitely made that betrayal sting that much more, because like no foe is more hated than a former friend, type thing. So it's like if you can get on board with what their mission is, and it's like you sympathize with them, and then they do some scummy stuff like that, it's like, oh man, because like if you could see it coming, that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like totally blindsides you, like that's a betrayal, right? And like that's something that they did it well, and that is one thing I have to applaud the anime for, because when we saw it, we were floored. We were like, what the hell, man? Like, we got to talk about this. So it was pretty nuts. I gotta ask, okay, so say this if you can. In the most non-spoiler fashion possible, if possible, and if not, you don't have to answer it. Does Rack get the fucking recognition that he deserves?
Oh my God.
Because I can't get off this, bro.
Every fucking fanboy,
I love
dude.
Rack
Not
as
really.
a character. Fuck!
Kind of, but not really.
Oh my God, that's so depressing, dude. It's so depressing.
Dude, after every fucking episode
God.
recording, whenever we're together, it's when is Rack gonna give a buy? We're like, Ian,
Isaiah basically said he wants to suck Coon's dick. Yeah. And you're fucking mad at me.
right.
And you're mad at me.
To be fair,
it's Coon we're talking about.
to be fair, thank you, fucking Gavin. All 4 of us have seen what Coon looks like with his hair down and up. That's all I'm saying. Rack is like a fucking crocodile. Get out of here.
Listen, man, to each their own is all I'm saying. Damn, well, at least now I can kind of shut up about it because I know. But I'm very depressed about that, I'd like to say. Because I'm like, damn, dude, I love this character and I'd love to see him cut loose. But I feel like it's just, there's clearly going to be some sort of time skip in
one of the
things, so.
sad parts with Rack, I call him Rock,
You're
but
good.
I also used to call Bam Bomb, but I've kind of morphed. It kind of goes back and forth.
We call
good.
rice ball, fucking whatever.
Yeah,
We don't even use names. So
Isaiah always cracked me up what you said. Yeah, we call him Rice Ball. Who else? Sleepy. And then when we were calling him Quant, Gavin called him Quaint once, and then Isaiah called him Quants.
yeah, we don't
plural.
do
So
names.
we're shot. So don't worry. Pronounce it how you will. Tomato, tomato. But anyway, you were saying.
So SIU has a tough time drawing Rock in his full form. So that's why he's in his small form. And when he's in the small form, he's pretty nerfed. He's just comedic. He's just comedy. That's all. And I think the anime pushed that comedy a little too far.
You think so?
I do.
Interesting.
I felt that the screen shaking when Rock is throwing a tantrum, and when Rock was like, I think it was the scene that kind of pissed me off was when they first came into the little testing area, the Evan Kills mothership, right before Leiro introduces himself, and Bomb talks about, oh, is that the sky? And Rock just obnoxiously just starts laughing and making fun of Bomb.
Oh yeah,
and I thought that was messed up. But I also had the context of how important that speech was to Bomb, and Rock's reaction in the webtoon was different. So in the webtoon, Rock kind of snickered, but then he gave a little glance at Bomb. Because
that's a good point.
What that speech meant to Bomb was, he wanted this to be the real sky so that if Rachel saw these stars, she would finish their mission. They can go back to the cave. They can live happily ever after. But Rock and Kun saying, oh, like, no, sky, what are you talking about? This is all Shinso. Like, that's crazy. Bomb was kind of devastated because I was like, all right, I got to keep climbing to find Rachel.
Yeah. Interesting. That's an interesting play on it. Yeah, because especially, obviously not reading the webtoon first, we don't understand how important that is. It's like, it was moving so fast paced too that it's like hard to connect the dots sometimes.
So I think the best thing about webtoons and just manga in general is you can set the pace as a reader, right? You can read as fast as you want. You can read as slow as you want.
Sure. You can go back and like.
Yeah, and granted, SIU kind of was a little wordy in season 1, and that's a lot of people's gripe when they're reading the webtoon, which they actually enjoyed in the anime, that they cut out half the stuff, was because there was too much talking points in the webtoon, like introducing the 13-month weapons. They kind of introduced that like 3 different times in season 1 in the webtoon, which is pretty redundant.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, that's pretty cool, because I know we had a few commenters that actually didn't like the fact that they took out a lot of the I guess like character monologuing, and like maybe that's not so much, I guess, like the like redundant exposition dumps, but like we would get comments like, I remember back around like the AB test, we had people commenting where they were like, oh, they left out like Enderosi has a speech here, or like Kun says or sort of like goes into exposition or background about this thing that they took out, and there were things that I guess sort of fleshed out those characters more, or fleshed out their thought process in whatever moment like it was. So that's interesting that like there were people, because I guess us being in this bubble like that, in my mind it was like people really did like that, but like it's interesting to hear that like some people actually preferred the anime because it was like just sort of keep going.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It makes me feel subpar because I'm the idiot who needs that like reflection later on that's like, oh, hey, this is X, Y, and Z. Don't forget it. And I'm like, thank you, because I forgot it as soon as I was done reading it.
Dude,
I need that like refresher because I don't even know what the fuck I ate for breakfast. I'm fucking stupid. Like the more you throw it in my face and go, this is important, the more I'm like, yes, this is important. Thank you. But I appreciate it. Although, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's
the
interesting.
anime has big ups and big downs
Yeah.
based on adaptation. I think one of the biggest things that the anime nailed out of the park was backgrounds. SIU's backgrounds in season 1 drawing was just yellow squares. It was awful.
Yeah.
I love the backgrounds that
Yeah.
that the anime did, and they really excelled in that.
No, for sure. It's it's providing that aesthetic,
Mhm.
and it makes sense too because not to go too off the beaten path, but we had talked, Shmuka and I had talked beforehand, and you said that you were picking up Berserk, and it got me thinking as you were saying how that webtoon in
Here we go.
for the
Now
I
it's
knew
talking about Berserk.
I knew you were gonna say that, but fuck
Unbelievable.
off because this is actually relevant. No, but I thought it was interesting how you were saying that the webtoon for Tower of God is kind of like a supplement, to the webtoon itself, and then I think it was
The
you that
anime,
was
but
saying
yeah.
it's almost was that I think you were saying, Isaiah, that it's like this is almost a teaser, of like what it could be, and that's kind of the similar thing, with Berserk, right? That would be a similar gripe with a lot of people, was almost like a trailer. And so the more I'm thinking about it, Tower of God, that is, in that frame of mind, it almost seems like a very extended like supercut, of like, okay, this is what this show could be, or I'm sorry, this is what this story could be, and if you'd like to continue, like there's just so much more to explore at this point.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's why I related the two. So I thought it was interesting. But speaking of which, I'd like to get into finally some of our favorite moments, and by our I mean I'd like to defer the question to you, Shimoka, being that you are our guest. Some of your favorite moments from the webtoon, and I know you've kind of gone over some of the things that they've done well and some of the things they haven't in the anime, so I'm not going to ask you to go through a whole thing like that again, but if there's anything stand out in the anime that you preferred or liked, or characters or anything, things you loved, things you hated in terms of webtoon and of anime, especially now that you've read through it so many times.
So I'll take one moment per our main cast. So Bomb,
Perfect.
Kun, and Rock.
Mm-hmm.
So Bomb in the beginning of the webtoon where he gets hit in the head. I think it's after Horring kind of hits him in the head, but I could be wrong. SIU uses this weird paneling that he hasn't used ever since, where he cracks the screen itself and puts shattered glasses everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was when Bomb was hit. And like, I mean, I'm recollecting it now, but I thought that was a cool moment to show visually just how cracked Bomb got in that moment.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing use of paneling. Another use of paneling that he's used is when we got Kun's backstory, where we had all the speeches of, oh, him and Maria, and those bubbles kind of stacked together on top of each other and kind of flowed right into Kun. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think Kun in the anime was a little better because I enjoyed his outburst a lot. A lot of people didn't, but I actually really loved it because it showed a new side of him that's not so new if you continue reading, but a new side of him.
Yeah, interesting.
And then let's see, Rock, right?
Yeah.
So Rock has this moment right as they enter in round 3 of the game where he says, "The game doesn't start without me," or something like that, and he kind of screams and roars.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most hype moment of Rock in the entire series, and they completely butchered that in the anime.
Oh man, that's rough. That is pretty hype. That's fucking
Yeah.
dope. Now, season 1, and try not to be too biased, being that you've read ahead, right? Try and keep it in terms of season 1, because we actually have, or it may be out by the time we release this. I don't know, but regardless, yeah. I'm not going to say anything, but we have gone through sort of discussion on who some of our favorite characters were from season 1, and I'm curious to hear your opinion and just try and take it in terms of season 1 if you can. Right?
Got it.
Are there any characters that that stuck with you, or that you latched onto, or that you were almost rooting for in terms of likability within the first season?
And why is it Yuri?
And why is it
Go
Yuri?
ahead. What was it?
He said, "Why is it Yuri?"
Why is it Yuri? I love Yuri.
Yeah.
But so I'll say it now. Best girl, Hwaring. She's amazing. I love the little eye patch. I love that she's a guide. Beautiful.
Yes.
Yuri's also amazing, but she doesn't really her character kind of stays the same because she's a powerhouse. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, fair enough.
I think my favorite is actually Serena. It used to be Ho until I got to season 2.
Interesting.
So
Okay, why?
without spoiling anything,
Yes.
She's cool.
why not Ho is because someone did Ho's job better.
Oh.
Okay.
Dun dun dun.
And once you guys get to like maybe the first arc of season 2, we can talk about that more. But that's all I'm gonna say about Ho. I love Serena because of how raw she was and the divergent path. I know you guys talked about it. I think it was Gavin that talked about how similar they were, Serena and Ho, but how different they are, and how Serena cherished her friendship, and that's why she took the path that she took, while Ho threw that away for the sake of climbing the tower.
Yeah, I thought that was an awesome play on it. And I think we came to a similar conclusion in terms of likability when it came to Serena. She's one of my favorites, 100% from season 1, along with Shibasu.
Yeah.
I like Shibasu a lot too.
Shibasu he stole the show in the anime. They
really
made
did.
him amazing. Especially when he was introduced. Like I kind of felt bad because, you know, the main trio is the main trio, Bomb, Rock, Kun, and they didn't really get that much characterization. While Shibusu, when he was introduced, like literally took that entire episode for himself. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It really is. He was freaking amazing. That's awesome. All right, cool. I mean, I would like to. I was gonna play with fire here, but
Oh
I'm
my
afraid.
God.
where it was like come up with some shit where it's like we come up with like predictions. You know what I mean? You have to keep a straight fucking face.
Oh my god.
I mean,
But
I can't play
subject
poker well. I'll just say that. I don't have a poker face.
But I think that would have been fun. It's like because we're not looking at the TV. We're like, all right, this is gonna happen. He's just like.
These fucking idiots,
Yeah,
dude.
right? It would be like, no, you're dead wrong. He's just behind us. Like, it'd be funny if we were like, all right, no, never mind. Don't spoil it for everyone. I won't do it.
Shut up.
It would have been funny. Fuck you. All right. Anyway, but shit, man. I don't know. I think we basically covered a lot in terms of season 1, and you know a lot of the points that we wanted to go over. Was there anything that you guys wanted to add, or any questions that you had for Shimura?
No,
I think that's it.
Shimura, was there any questions for us on our end?
What would you rate the series, both the season 1 of the webtoon and the anime, out of a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is, you know, a masterpiece?
Sure. Now that we
Gavin,
both.
go first because you never go first.
I mean, if you're uncomfortable like rating, then you don't have to. But
Oh, no,
I've
he's
gone
fine.
into
No,
my
he's just a
anime
bitch.
list. Yeah.
Isaiah rated something like a 3 the other week. So
No.
To be fair, it deserved a 3.
All right, so I will do the anime first. If I had to rate it, I would give it probably a 6.5 or a 7. Probably 7. I'm leaning more because visually, obviously, it's biased because we saw it first, and honestly, it's gonna have a little nice place in my heart.
Yeah.
Although I am gonna rate the manhwa higher, and I think it deserves a 7.5 or an 8. Probably an 8. And that is because I really do appreciate the additional information that you get for each character. I really like how they went into Yuri's squad a lot more, and it just you just get an in-depth evaluation of each character more than the anime, because obviously they had to rush it, condense it, do all the shit. So for me, I prefer the manhwa more, thus getting it a better grade. 8 and 7 respectively. Call it a day.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair
that's
enough.
for me.
Anything, Isaiah?
I would probably give the anime like a solid 8.
Wow.
8 out of 10.
High.
Just because I think I mean, so I guess I'm a little biased because I watched the anime first. So again, even reading the manhwa, it's like I couldn't help but think back to the anime because that was my whole frame of reference. But I think, again, sort of harkening back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, it's such a nice way to latch people on to Tower of God. As great as I do think the manhwa is, I feel like this is a better way to give people the exposure to it and give people that taste of it. And then it's if you watch the anime and you're like, all right, that was dope, but it sucks it was only 13 episodes. It's then you can refer to the manhwa, you have that, but I don't know how well the manhwa would be able to sell itself just on its own merit. 1, just because of the length of it, and 2, because of the way that it's structured. The manhwa knows that it can take its time, and it knows that it can go into any number of characters as much as it wants. But the anime has I guess the weird the blessing and the curse of being all right, from episode 1 to episode 13, I'm gonna tell you basically what happens in season 1 of Tower of God. And like, that's, you know what I mean? It gives you that like, oh, all right, I want to know more.
Yeah.
I would probably give the manhwa, I don't know, I would say a 7.5.
Okay.
Which
you can
is
give it lower if you want. It sounds like you want to give it
well,
lower. That's okay.
my thing is with season, if we're talking about just season 1,
just season 1.
yeah, I think I would rate it lower than the anime. But I have a feeling that like once we get past season 1 in the manhwa, it'll probably like definitely go higher.
That's
just
okay.
because
You can look back on this and say, well, season 1 was this, but season 2 was this. So I mean, just give me your season 1. Probably lower, right? That's okay.
Fair enough. It gets a 3.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
No, I'm kidding.
Ballsy.
I'm kidding. I'd give it like a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I think I would have to, it's really hard for me. I think I would have to rate them both at the end of the day. I think I would have to rate them both a 7.5. I'm going to give them both a 7.5. And I think they both deserve that spot for very different reasons, right? So it's like, if you told me, okay, base this off of X criteria, then we would have a difference, right? But if I'm just going off of raw likability, how much this show or story pulled me in and made me feel like a part of it, and how much more likely I was to recommend it, watch it, or read it, I think that it's virtually a tie, because I think after reading the webtoon now, and I'm going to mirror some of the things that Isaiah said, being that because we watched the anime first, it is virtually impossible to not have that as a frame of reference. So it's really hard sometimes, you know what I mean, when going through. It's almost like we're comparing to, did this live up to the anime, even though it's so much older, instead of the flip for most people, did this compare to the webtoon, right? So for me, I think that the anime, and this anime in particular, adds an aesthetic that just couldn't be matched, right? I just think that between the soundtrack, the interesting style of animation, and just the way it flowed, and some of the shots and scenes, like aesthetically, it was something that pulled me in. Literally, I remember saying to you guys when we had first reviewed the 2 episodes that this animation style and soundtrack really caught my attention. And I think that's worth noting, right? Because like Isaiah was saying, where it's like, okay, how much of a good or bad job does this do on selling you on it? And I have to be honest, if I read the webtoon just straight up, right? Because we didn't know what the hell, like, we were like, new show, it's getting some hype, like, let's watch it, right? That was all the influence we had. But if you had handed me that, and especially in terms of our show, if you had handed me that webtoon and be like, yo, read this, you should talk about it on your show, I'm not going to lie, as much as I liked it, I don't know if I would have had, I don't even know the right word, like if I would have had the gusto to be like, yo, I think this is worth going all the way.
Yeah.
It was because of the anime that I was like, dude, I really think that this is something, like people are fucking with it, and I think the webtoon now is worth it, where I don't think I would have had that flipped on the reverse. And I feel a lot of that, again, has to do, I have a biased opinion, not only because I watched it first, but because of how it's impacted this show in particular. And it's ironic because our webtoon discussions get more traction now than our anime episodes did. So that might seem silly to say, but I don't think we would have gotten where we are today if it wasn't for the anime.
We wouldn't
itself.
have done webtoon discussions had we not watched the anime.
Exactly. And the anime just did a really good job of selling me on this story and seeing how loyal people were and how pissed or happy they were if the anime did things correctly in their eyes or incorrectly in their eyes. And like, that's why I have to rate it very high, because it did a very good job. Now, I'd rate the webtoon the same though, right? But I think it's for very different reasons. And not for the reasons that I just described, again, where it was like, I thought it was very good, but I don't know if it was like on that, utmost level. I think it's a very well put together story so far. I think that the themes in it are very interesting. I think that the character development is really awesome. And I love how, especially this story gives you the ability to go back multiple times and read it and learn something new every time. It requires a very active participation, but if you take the time to do that, the rewards are endless, right? From this story. Just, it has like this re-upped value every single time you go through it. And it provides for so many amazing conversations that we have amongst ourselves and with people that are in love with the story as much as we've become in love with it, right? So like, I feel like that's something that can't necessarily be captured as well as we've stated in the anime, or just in a lot of stories in general, or manga or webtoons. And I think that I've read a couple, manga / webtoons, or, now at this point, not a crazy amount. It's not like our whole channel's based on that, but I think I have enough under my belt to kind of understand what I prefer and what I don't prefer. And I do genuinely like this story, you know, and it's something that I think even if we weren't talking about it, I might not do it as fast because I wouldn't put myself on a clock, but that I would find the time at some point in life, you know what I mean, to kind of like go through this, because I'm like, I think this is interesting enough to keep it going. And I think that can't be discounted because it's been so influential and important to so many people and, you know, so many passionate fans around the world for it now. But that's my that's my final thoughts.
Now we need to know your rating.
Yeah.
Oh,
A 5. 5 for the anime.
Okay.
So I'll give you my reasoning. So 5 is the highest I'll go because of the sound design with the OSTs by Kevin Penkin, who's amazing. I actually checked out Made in Abyss because of his work in Tower of God, which has become a 10 out of 10 series for me that I look forward to every month. The character design by Tini Miho, who posts a lot of her or his, I don't know if it's male or female, on Twitter, and those character designs kept me going each week. But for me, openings and endings, not the song, but the literal first episode and the last episode mean a lot within a manga or within a webtoon or within anime. And the first episode was hella choppy, and the last episode missed the mark on our main character, in my opinion. So that kind of balances out and right at a 5 for me.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Fair enough. So
For
the
the
webtoon,
webtoon, between, I want to say 6.5.
Okay.
Because the art style is pretty bad. But, you know, this was also 10 years ago. And the main reason that I, you know, kept going with the story was because the story itself, the narrative captured me. And I was like, all right, like, screw the art. I'll just keep reading. This is probably going to get better. And it significantly did. And the art style, once you guys get to season 2 and season 3, jumps.
Yeah.
It jumps in quality. I think my favorite art stylistic choices happen maybe early to mid season 2. I love season 3 designs in general, but early to mid season 2, there's this fight that blows my mind with the art style that, you know, this author that I've been following with, you know, pretty shoddy art really improved drastically.
Yeah.
So I'll
That's
give it a
awesome.
6.
Okay.
Because I think Crown Game is a top 5 arc for me. I love that Crown Game, just the whole thing around it.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
awesome. That's cool. That's cool. So I have one final request of you, and that is to let people know that are listening today from our audience know where to find you and things that you might be working on in the future that you want to share.
Got it. Well, you can find me on YouTube, Inspirashamul. I'll spell it out. INSPIRASHAMUL. So you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch. I'm starting to do some rereads. I might just jump straight into season 2 because I've talked about season 1 a lot. I did a huge cut content series for comparing the chapters to the episodes while I was watching the anime. So you can check those out in my playlist. Lot of theories. So I'm caught up. There's 485 chapters. It's on hiatus. I have a lot of backlog because I started chapter reviews 25 chapters before the hiatus happened when I started. So I have a lot of theories that I want to talk about that should go up once I finish this reread. So look out for it. If you want to sub, you know, you don't have to, but
You should.
if you want to, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. So Inspirashamul, guys, make sure that you are checking him out on his YouTube channel. He's done a lot of work for the Tower of God community and the Webtoon community as a whole. So you definitely want to support creators out there that are trying their best to have a profound impact and influence on the people that love these stories as much as we do. So definitely check him out. But man, until next time, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell on our end as well, showing love to all the creators out there. Hit us up on your social media platforms. And if you're listening to audio only versions, make sure you are following us on there as well. Also hit us up on Patreon. That's patreon.com/AoA show. Or as always, all these links are in the description down below. But again, Shamuka, thank you so much for hopping on, man.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch. All right.
For sure.
Till next time, guys.
Peace.
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 Hey folks, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our new episodes.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AoA Podcast if you want to keep up with our content or suggest new ideas for the show.
You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week to talk about all things anime.
Ninjas and samurais, blazing the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though.